at the beginning. All right, I think we're about ready to get started. So I just need to put our presentation up. And I can do that. And we are rolling. Okay, and start from the start. Okay, hello everybody. We're being recorded. We are on. I hope you can see me. Welcome. This platform allows for some pretty cool things. So if you want to put a question into the chat, you're welcome to do so. Hopefully everybody's muted except Amanda and myself. So we're going to cover a lot of material today. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be hosting this. Some of you might not know that the reason that this all got started is that I'm recovering from a major surgery on my ankle. And as somebody who used to work out an hour or more a day, who's been very, very active, I've had to grind it down to a complete stop. And as somebody who is approaching her 58th birthday, who's always watched her weight, I was terrified that this surgery and being inactive was going to cause real trouble. So I have been working with Amanda to fine-tune my diet so that I don't gain weight and maybe lose weight during my time of recovery. And it is going really well, I might say. So we'll talk more about that later. But today, that's why we're here together. And our intention is to get started with introductions of the two of us so that you know what experts we are. And because it's easier to toot somebody else's horn, I will begin by introducing Amanda. Amanda Liptak, RDN, LDN. She's a registered and licensed dietitian nutritionalist working in private practice with a concentration in integrative and holistic nutrition. She's the owner of the newly created nutrientrichlife.org. I think it's just going online today, and it's an online resource for nutrition, fitness, and lifestyle. Amanda's devoted to teaching whole food nutrition that is based on each client's needs rather than advocating for a one-size-fits-all approach. She believes that by helping her clients realize that positive relationship with food is possible, they will see that a restrictive diet isn't necessary. As a certified jazzercise fitness instructor of nearly 11 years, Amanda's able to connect the dots between exercise and nutrition. She has successfully used her fitness education to help her clients properly align their lifestyle programs. Amanda serves as a resource to the Northeast Ohio Food Allergy Network and is active volunteer for FARE and a supporter for food allergy advocacy and Ohio State Legislature. She has contributed various articles to allergy blogs. She has a BS in dietetics and nutrition from the University of Akron and is currently pursuing her master's degree. Amanda lives outside of Cleveland with her husband Jeff and son Landon and a Labradoodle named Bella. That's very important, you know.
It is.
Yeah, I have pets, but I didn't put them in my bio. But anyway, I wanted to also share with you, Amanda's impressed me. I first met her because she was my jazzercise instructor, and I'm passionate about exercise and jazzercise, so of course, she impressed me there. But then I noticed the few ladies around me losing weight and mentioning that they were working with Amanda, and I had no idea she was a dietitian. And we got to talking, and she was curious about emotional freedom techniques. And I will say that Amanda has helped me in big ways by taking what I know about Weight Watchers and giving me some new freedom that allows me to lose weight without being hungry at all. This has been an amazing thing. So I'll talk about that some more, but that's all I'll tell you right now. So I'll turn it over to Amanda to introduce me now.
All right. Well, Betsy Muller is a best-selling author. She is a professional speaker and a master trainer in emotional freedom techniques. This is also known as EFT or tapping, and she has helped thousands of people accomplish their goals. Her company, the Indigo Connection, has been supporting women through coaching and networking and practitioner trainings and retreats since 2005. Betsy is a 26-year lifetime member of Weight Watchers and still attends local meetings. Her passion is fitness, and graceful aging fuels her search for the latest discoveries in mind-body health. And Betsy earned a BA in chemistry from the College of Worcester. She holds an MBA from Baldwin Wallace University, and she is the author of 4 books, including the Amazon bestseller, Energy Makeover, A Conscious Way to Stay Young, Have Fun, and Get More Done, and is a contributing author to the Clinical EFT Handbook. So now I'm going to discuss some of the things that has impressed me about Betsy. And this whole EFT concept has just kind of come to light for me. I really had no idea what Betsy did as a living. She was my jazzercise student, and we always were friendly with each other, and we talked about the weather and, different things, but we never talked about what we did as on a professional level. And she started talking about tapping and EFT, and I thought, wow, just her level of knowledge has really impressed me. Her level of business etiquette and experience and patience, and the fact that she has this fine-tuning capability where she can really read into people's emotions and work with them and help them, and is a good reader of people. And that was amazing to me. And so I'm just really taking in everything that Betsy has to offer on a lot of different levels. And it's been a pleasure to work with her, to have her as my client, and then to engage in something like we're doing today. So thank you, Betsy.
Well, thank you for sharing this day with me. So let's go over our agenda for today, and then we'll get started. So Amanda, do you want to take over the agenda?
Yes. All right, so what we're going to go over is we're going to discuss the 4 key success secrets, because that's what this, the webinar is all about today. And so there's 4 key components. The first one is measuring and tracking. So we're going to talk about, why measuring and tracking is so important. I'm going to give you my perspective on it from a dietary modification standpoint, and then Betsy's going to give you her perspective as well. Then we're going to move to managing mood. From there, we're going to go to behaviors and habits, and we're going to discuss some examples with that. And then lastly, we're going to go over limiting negative beliefs and how that gets in the way of us moving forward and having success, not just with weight loss, but overall health and wellness as well. We're going to go into a little bit of questions and answers, what we have time for at the end. And then we are going to review some special offers that both Betsy and I are offering. Everybody who's attended this webinar and registered, you get a special offer from us to work with us outside of the webinar series. So, and then like I said, we'll address any questions, and then we'll close. And you'll have that recording if you want to look back on it at any time as well.
Well, so let's get into tracking and measuring. And I think Amanda's going to give her perspective first. So go right ahead.
Yes, I am. So when we talk about why tracking is important, and when we talk about tracking and measuring, we talk about what people call it a couple different things, either keeping a food diary, keeping a dietary intake or food intake, or keeping a food log. Those are all different terms for basically the same thing. But what we do know is that self-monitoring, that whole process, what gets tracked does get measured. And that's been proven over time in many studies. Over the years, the dietary advice has changed, but one thing that has stayed the same is that if you track, you measure, and you do have more success. And what we know from a study that was done in Kaiser Permanente's weight management initiative a few years back, they researched this in particular, and they had 2 groups of people. They had those in the weight loss study that kept a food diary throughout the whole process of the study. And then they had another group that did not keep a food diary. And what happened was they saw remarkable results from the study. There were the people that recorded their intake had actually double the weight loss at the end of the study than the people that did not record their intake. So it's an extremely powerful tool that keeps us focused. It keeps us mindful. It creates a sense of self-awareness. It puts us in touch with how we're feeling about food. It puts us in touch with all of that information that we need in order to make changes, make adjustments, and make shifts so we can figure out what's going to work for us. Because sometimes you're on a track and then you need to take a turn. So you need to be able to stay on the track, but then you need to be open to a detour as well. So how do we track and measure this? The very first thing that I always tell clients is you have to choose a way that works best for you. So whether that is going to be using a pen and paper, because that's what I like to do. I'm kind of like the old fashioned. I like to write it. If I write it, I remember it. If I see it, how are you learning? How are you feeling most comfortable with? Some people like to do it electronically. They like to put it into their phone or, to their tablet or their computer. Some people graph it. I got this beautiful graph from Betsy spreadsheet on what she was eating, and it was all clearly defined for me, and I did appreciate that. So it's whatever your comfort level is, but what I'm making a point to say is that unless you do something that you're comfortable with, you're going to stick with it. Otherwise, you won't stick with the process. So you don't want to set yourself up for failure. And the other example that I have for you today for this weight tracking and measuring is when you do the tracking and measuring, it's not only important to do it, but it's how you do it, how you execute on it. That is important because you want to make sure that you give context to your day. In other words, you want to put in all the details that you can. Sometimes we're looking past the actual content, what you're writing down. We want to know the details, and the proof is really in the details. So did you work late that day? What prompted you to eat later in the evening when you normally don't eat later in the evening? You didn't exercise that day. Did that impact your intake? Or maybe your fluid or hydration. Maybe you attended a funeral, and so that affected your mood and you were really down on yourself. And so in response to that, you had some really high sugary items that day. Maybe you were eating mindlessly. You were eating, just not putting enough, as much thought into it. Maybe you skipped lunch that day and you were ravishing when you got home because you had to attend a meeting. So whatever it is, you have to put all of that data. It forms a big picture, and that picture is important. So we can reflect back on that and we can make adjustments, and then it's okay to make mistakes. And then you have to move forward from those mistakes. The key to anything you do in life is not making the mistake over and over again, but it's moving forward to the next day. So we know we're not perfect, but we're not punishing ourselves, and we're just moving forward to the next day. And that's all a part of bringing that content together and tracking and measuring.
Okay. So from my perspective, I've been a Weight Watcher and I have attended meetings for, probably 28 years, if I had to be honest about it, but I didn't make lifetime until 26 years ago. And the one thing that comes up over and over again in meetings with people who are successful is that their key to success is tracking. I've heard that stated a million of times. And as much as I've been a Weight Watcher all those years, there are times when I stop tracking, and guess what happens? My weight usually goes up, and I become less mindful about my portions, what I eat, my nutrition, all those kind of things. So everything Amanda told you was really spot on. When it comes to emotional freedom techniques, or my specialty, EFT, EFT is a process where we access the body, some balancing points on the body while we're mindful of our thoughts and feelings. And this approach is now documented by clinical research. Over 40 randomized studies now, I believe, verify the value of emotional freedom techniques for a variety of human problems. But many of the studies have to do with weight loss, food cravings, stress around food, stress eating, and I guess things that lead us into being overweight. So I've been using tapping since 2001. I've been doing it as a practice since 2005, and I've helped a lot of people. And when it comes to tracking, I want each of you on the call right now to think for a moment about how you feel about tracking. Like sometimes people will just, the thought of writing everything down feels horrible to them. That it's too much work, it's too much hassle, it's going to take too much time. I already know what I'm eating. And so why bother writing it down? Or maybe writing it down makes you feel guilty, so you don't want to do it. But all of that is what I would call resistance. And part of the beauty of emotional freedom techniques treatments is that you can undo the resistance or bring down your personal resistance to change. Even when the change doesn't feel like it fits, you can start exploring bringing more openness to change. And I've put up a picture of the EFT tapping points. I'm happy to share that with you after the call. And when we continue with the series, or anybody who works with me privately, of course, you learn more in depth how to use this acupressure mind-body process to really access your brain, your neurology, and the balance in your body to help everything you decide to do be easier. Today on my Facebook page, if you look at that page, you'll see a video about clearing resistance. Mm-hmm. And resistance to tracking and measuring is something I suggest everybody think about. And I think I could very quickly, let's stop the shared screen. Okay, you guys can see me now, hopefully. Let's do something real quick. This is how I would treat resistance. And you can do this too. You just tap the side of the hand. And I'm just going to run a few things that, like, even you would say, even though it's too much work to write everything down, I am open to it. And I'm willing to love and accept myself right where I am. Even though writing and tracking my food intake will make me feel guilty, I admit it and I accept it, and it's okay. Maybe it's time to write things down. And even though I think I know it all already and I don't have to write it down, but it's a part of the success process, I'm open to considering it. Even though it's too hard to write everything down, because I just don't always have pen and paper or a phone with me. I deeply and completely accept that as my feelings right now. And I'm open to considering it anyway. So that's an example of how you would just open yourself up to maybe clear some feelings you have. Tracking for me right now, taking your weight on a scale is part of tracking. I can't get on a scale because I have this big boot on and it weighs about, I don't know, 6 pounds or something. I don't even know. So I won't be able to weigh myself for a while, but tracking for me involves taking a tape measure to my waist every day. That's an example of tracking. And even measuring your food is another example of tracking, if that's something you need to do. There's a lot of ways you get a handle on your tracking. So anyway, enough of that. I think we got to keep moving on. So I got to share my screen again. Let's get back to our presentation. Okay, this next part, we're going to go to secret number 2. Take it away, Amanda.
Okay, so for the second point, we're going to talk about managing our food with mood and how the mind and the body are connected during this period. So what I think is really interesting is that physiologically you have a connection in your body, and your head is connected to your gut through the vagus nerve, and that is a nerve that starts at the 10th cranial nerve, and it comes all the way down, and it runs from your brain stem to your abdomen. And so therefore, your brain and your gut are literally connected. So when they talk about the mind, brain, body connection, it is something that is really real. It's not just this abstract idea. And what we know about that is we know that the vagus nerve actually is the primary route in which your gut bacteria uses to transmit information to your brain. And so that's why now you hear about all of these studies where gut health is very important, because a lot of things originate in the gut. So you hear a lot about inflammation, you hear a lot about gut health, and that is the primary focus right now because we're studying that connection more and more. So I think that's really interesting, feeds into this topic that we're discussing right now. And so because we know that that connection exists, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to alter our diet so we can help reduce stress, and we can help feed into the positive thoughts and the positive emotions and the positive feelings, and really kind of push those negative ones aside. And what we know is that certain foods actually create happy moods, and they feed into a chemical in our body called serotonin. And ironically, going back to the gut, about 80 to 90% of serotonin is originated in the gut. So I think that's interesting as well. But serotonin is that chemical that's responsible for maintaining mood, maintaining balance in the body. It can play a role in overall metabolism and satiety and food cravings. It's just really interesting. But certain foods help balance that. And one of those foods is protein. One in particular are plant-based protein sources like omega-3 fatty acids. And those you're going to find in like your salmon, your mackerel, your tuna. Those are your fatty fishes. Also, you're going to find it in flaxseed and walnuts. And then we move to, now that we know what those are, let's give an example of how we can get those into our diet more often. How can we work towards increasing our intake of that to help our mood? Well, we can choose a wild-caught salmon, and you want to look for wild-caught Atlantic salmon. And for the general population, you can eat that up to 2 times a week. And you can prepare that in different ways. There's a lot of talk nowadays. I'm seeing a lot of recipes about one-pan recipes. And has kind of like my favorite go-to on my busy nights. So you can toss that into a sheet tray, put some vegetables, drizzle them with olive oil, put them into the oven, and go ahead and cook that off. And then your cleanup and your prep is just as equally as easy. You can also grab some, unsalted walnuts. So there's a lot that you can do to kind of work these foods in throughout the day. But definitely omega-3 fatty acids is that one example that affects that mood and gives you that increases those serotonin levels.
So in my work with emotional freedom techniques, coaching business owners, a lot of times I'm really face to face with people that are, I guess I haven't diagnosed it, but they're dealing with symptoms of depression, low mood, low energy. And, we wonder, is there something we can do about that aside from taking medications? And what I've found is that emotional freedom techniques, the tapping really does work nicely to lift mood and to balance the emotions. And what's really exciting is some of the research that has come through also tells us that EFT is especially suited to lower cortisol levels. Cortisol is that stress hormone. And one of the clinical studies, it was a triple-blind study where people who tapped had a 24% reduction in the cortisol levels, as opposed to, I think the other comparison was napping or doing a stress relief breathing seminar of some sort. Those activities only lowered cortisol less than half the amount that EFT did. So, a real clear feeling of less stress. Peter Stapleton, who is in Australia, in Queensland, Australia, is one of the lead researchers in weight loss using emotional freedom techniques. And what she found is that when we are exposed to a food that's one of our trigger foods. So for example, if ice cream is your thing, let's take that example. If somebody put ice cream in front of you and you're really trying to avoid that stuff because you get out of control with it, as soon as it's in front of you, your cortisol level goes up because it is stressful to you to have it in front of you when you can't eat it. Or think about this, you're watching TV and they put one of your favorite foods up on the screen. Guess what might happen? Your cortisol might go up. When you are especially hungry or having cravings, your cortisol is going up too. What to do? Well, eating that food might lower it temporarily, but think about this. You could probably use a tapping sequence. And I will be demonstrating using tapping for food cravings when we get into the series. I also have a video online that you can check out really quickly and tap along to that as well. And I'll provide those links to you after this program. But you can take the edge off of your cravings. You can also really treat yourself for memories that you have attached to certain foods. And I will tell you, just as on a personal aside, I made some changes to my diet since working with Amanda for my surgery. I made a decision to really eliminate sugar. And I didn't think it was possible, but I just, because I don't want inflammation in my surgical healing, I did it. Little did I know that I would stop eating chocolate as of January 1. I haven't had any chocolate since then. And I used to have a little square every day. I was really good at keeping my portion small. But it's funny, my gut must not need it anymore. So now that we know about that gut-brain connection, something got cut off. But I am eating healthy fats, and that is keeping me satisfied. Just like Amanda said, healthy fats and protein have made a big difference in my mood. I'm always a high mood person, but I'm feeling really calm and not having cravings for the things I used to have. So, okay, Amanda, let's see, we're into tip 3.
All right, we are.
Habits.
So now we're going to discuss behaviors and habits and how weight impacts those things. And so what I want to say is that when I work with clients, we talk about short-term goals, but long-term behaviors. We also talk about long-term goals, but what you need to understand is that long-term behaviors drive long-term success. We're not looking, to go on a diet per se. We're looking to make a lifestyle change. You want a change that's going to stick with you, that's lifelong. And so, and to do that, we go back to, the first section that we were talking about, and that's the self-monitoring, that's the measuring, that's the tracking, whether you're tracking food, whether you're tracking weight, whether you're tracking waist circumference, whatever it is, you're checking in with yourself to self-monitor. That's a long-term behavior. Maybe over time, you don't do it every day. Maybe you do it every other day or every third day, but it's still taking place and it becomes part of a lifestyle that you're leading. Also, goal setting. I'm going to talk about that, making certain goals for yourself, making them achievable, making them maintainable, making them realistic, so you can hit those goals and feel that success and move on to the next phase of your treatment. And I know that we're going to be talking a little bit more in depth about that, creating goals too, when we discuss in the series. That will be the first week. But also problem solving. We work through problems together and behaviors. What specific behaviors are causing us angst? What behaviors can help facilitate change? And what behaviors inhibit change or pull us back from change? And I know that Betsy's going to talk a little bit more about that as well from a cognitive standpoint, from an EFT standpoint. When we look at the long-term success, it's important to remember that skill power, having the skills is more important than having the willpower. Because if you have the skills, then all that other willpower stuff goes out the door. Okay, that's your key to success. You need to be able to manage whatever is coming your way. And say, for instance, an example of that is triggers. And there's different levels of triggers, different things that can come up. Every person has different triggers that kind of, maybe it's ice cream, like Betsy had mentioned in the last slide. For some people, that's a trigger food for them. Sometimes it's a food. Sometimes it's a circumstance. Sometimes it's about a time of the day that it's a trigger. So, for example, just knowing what your trigger is the first step to addressing it. So openly admitting it, writing it down, and then problem solving it together. So say, for instance, like every day at 3 o'clock, maybe you get home from work at 3 o'clock and your husband is waiting for you at home. And so, it's a couple hours before dinner. And so you have this gap of time where it's almost like you're eating mindlessly, you're eating out of boredom. You recognize it, but that 3 o'clock time is problematic for you. So what we do is we will address the behavior. What can we do instead of going to the snack? Maybe we put a load of laundry in. Maybe we decide we're going to, instead of going to the 5:30, workout class, we're going to go to the 4 o'clock workout class instead, because we're going to bridge that gap of time a little bit. So what we want to do is just address it and move forward so we can go into that long-term success. And I know I'm going to turn it over to Betsy so she can talk a little bit more about that.
Okay. So when we look at behaviors and habits, really it's about, checking out what was my old way of doing things. And you've got to admit it and accept it and be really realistic about where you're going as you choose a new habit, because it takes a while for an old behavior to clear and a new habit to become an automatic. One of the things that I do know for sure, that all the years I was in Weight Watchers, I took on changes gradually. I used to drink regular pop. I used to drink diet pop. Over the years, I realized that those things weren't good for me. I gave them up. And I didn't miss them anymore because I found that I could have mineral water. I like water. I like coffee. I made substitutions. So you got to take the old ways. You got to admit them and accept them to clear them. And we can do it I'm wondering, let's see. I'm wondering if we can, I don't think we have time to do an exercise with EFT, but when you're about to do a behavior that you're not going to be proud of, you can use the tapping to get a grip, to take a pause, to not go into the automatic. It takes a lot of personal responsibility to do that. But again, I remind everybody that choice is what drives everything. You've got to choose. You've got to choose what you want to be, and you got to practice choosing over and over again. And I will tell you this, having accountability is very important. I think a lot of my success since January 1 with Amanda has to do with, I took accountability. I wrote things down. I wrote down in my tracker. I even about my wine consumption, and Amanda and I had a discussion about behaviors and habits, and I like my wine. And she asked me right away, in your tracker, what happens when you have wine? Are you snacking more? And I said, no, I have my glass of wine and that's it. And that's key information. I think the old me probably would have had snacks with wine. So anyway, based on that feedback from my tracker and knowing that everything's in moderation pretty well for me right now, because I am being mindful about my behavior and my habits, I'm making progress in the way that needs to be made. So I'm just sharing that as a personal, because managing your mood, your productivity, all the work you have to do, and all the good habits you have already, you want to keep those in place too. You don't want to blow it. So you want to keep yourself on a constant track of clearing away things that aren't working for you and grabbing new habits that will get you your long-term success. Okay, and we're back to Amanda on secret number 4.
Okay, so kind of moving it into Betsy was talking about is, she was perfect intro. She was talking about clearing and limiting negative beliefs and moving forward. And so as we look at from the dietary standpoint, we look at which behaviors create a negative impact. And one of those things that comes to mind immediately for me, and I see this a lot in my clients, and they'll say to me, oh, well, I wasn't very good today, or I cheated today. And just the word cheat day, and this is how important choosing certain words and vocabulary is in your mindset. It puts you in a certain place of thinking about food. And it's very interesting. And when you give yourself a cheat day, it's not about eating foods that you normally wouldn't eat above and beyond the dietary pattern that we've set for you. It's about the principle of the word, so to speak. It can actually really limit you, not limit just what you're eating, of course, but limit the mindset And in a way that it can actually limit what you're eating is if, for instance, you were engaged in an elimination type of diet. Say we were eliminating gluten from your diet. Gluten is an all or nothing thing, and so you can't do it 50%. In order to clear the gluten from your system, you've got to abstain from having it, and you have to allow it to completely digest out of your system and clear. And so if you keep introducing that element into your body, we will never understand what the total success could be by the elimination. And therefore, our testing for the gluten is not going to be effective. However, on the flip side, when you cheat from a mental standpoint, it can actually induce feelings of guilt, and it can drive that negative behavior. And so that's exactly what we're looking not to do. So when we do a cheat day, it also implies that, hi, we're doing this restrictive diet instead of making a long-term lifestyle change. And so we're not thinking in terms of diet anymore. And diet, by the way, is by definition of diet, is anything that we consume, is, anything worth of calories consumption, is anything that we consume, is that is considered a diet. We know in modern day terms is, diet is going on a, Whole30, or it's going on the Atkins diet, or if it's going on a restrictive diet that we've set for you. But we're looking for long-term success. And so having a cheat day is not going to give you long-term success. Here's what we want to do. We want to move away from that negative terminology, and we want to move into creating a positive behavior and using positive terminology. And keeping it in a positive frame of mind will put you in a different place about it. So we want to think about incorporating ways where you can incorporate a variety of foods into the meal plan that we've set for you that allows you that freedom to have something that you want to have less often, but that doesn't induce the guilt. So when you're having it, you're planning for it, you're setting a goal for it, you're being accommodating for it. Say you have a birthday party, or you have a holiday celebration, or it's Valentine's Day and you want to have a couple cookies. The key is to incorporate it into the weekly plan and not consume 4 or 5 or 6 cookies at a sitting. And then you're kind of retraining the brain again. Oh, I kind of like that. Oh, now I feel guilty about it. Well, I blew today. It doesn't matter what I do tomorrow because I already blew yesterday. See where I'm going with this? So we want to kind of push that negative away and push in the positive behaviors and frame of mind, and listen to our body's cues for that. I'm going to turn it over to Betsy.
Absolutely. Okay. So to take off on what Amanda said, our thoughts are really driving our reality. And I know personally that I've had some beliefs about weight and aging, and maybe you guys have had those too. We hear about, when you hit menopause, you're just going to gain weight. And somebody once told me that everybody gets a big belly when they are menopausal. And, you hear these things. They're beliefs that are sometimes they're right out there in the media. You watch them on the news. Maybe there's some truth to it, but is that your truth? So I advise all of you to be careful about what you listen to. Now, beliefs happen in an instant. You might have beliefs going on with you from things your parents told you about weight and health, that you need your treats to survive, that it's impossible to lose weight on a certain program, that you usually fail after losing 10 pounds. I don't know how many times I've heard that one. Or the belief that you'll suffer if you go on a diet. I think that's one that I've cleared lately, because I always expect that when I get serious about my nutrition that I'll feel deprived. So what I would like to share with you, we'll do a real quick exercise together to tap about limiting beliefs, because I think you can benefit from this. If you can see me, you can tap along with me. Tap the points. I don't have time to really teach you the whole thing today, but I want to give you an example. So even though I don't believe I can be successful, with what Betsy and Amanda are telling me. I deeply and completely love and accept myself, even though I expect this to be hard and painful to follow. I deeply and completely love and accept myself and all my feelings about my body image and my weight, even though I'm expecting failure after I try for a while, and that makes me not even want to start. I deeply and completely love and accept myself right now, and I choose to let that all go and honor myself anyway. So tap the top of the head. All of these negative beliefs I carry inside of my head, all this negative thinking, I admit it, and I'm still lovable. And I'm willing to give this a try. I'm willing to consider it might not be so hard. Might not be hard at all. Then we tap under here, under the arm. Doesn't this look weird? But you know what? You're lowering your cortisol. You are helping balance the left-right sides of your body. Sometimes I just do half tapping, but you're actually better off doing both sides, under the eye, under the nose. And usually what I recommend is we do a few rounds on the negative side of things. And then when we start feeling a little more relaxed, we switch to positive thoughts. So we can say, I could do this. Betsy made progress even when she was stuck on the couch with her leg on a pillow. Maybe I can do this. Maybe tracking is a way for me to get started. Maybe I'll take my waist measurement today. I wonder what I could do between now and swimsuit season. Yikes. I'm feeling good about myself. I'm going to get healthier. I'm committed to it. And you can hit your wrists together to end. There's all these meridians that go up through the fingers. Oh, there's so much I have to teach you, but we'll come to that later. Let's go back to our screen. Okay. We got to get wrapped up pretty soon. We're going to try to take some questions too, I know.
So you would be proud of me because I did practice tapping yesterday and I was in the car. And so I tapped with one hand.
Yeah.
One hand on the wheel, one hand on my head.
Yeah. So, you usually can't eat and tap at the same time because it's really awkward. So, always try tapping right away. So do you want me to cover our special deals here? And we'll certainly be happy to take some questions too. So, time doesn't afford us to tell you all our secrets today. I think we hinted at some, and the idea is we want to give you a lot more materials over the next 4 weeks. We have a special offer today that you can join us for the next 4 weeks. We're going to have these classes on Thursdays at 2 o'clock. They're going to be recorded. So you'll have a video after the course. And you'll get the video, you'll get a private Facebook group with us where we'll be monitoring, putting resources out there, we'll be answering your questions, and you can do things to support one another and meet each other there too. That's the beauty of the Facebook group. So we'll give you tips for tracking. We'll give you actual materials that you can see how to track and what you might want to track. We'll give you proven practices. I know Amanda has recipes. I'll be leading you in some tapping exercises with some volunteers so that you can see how it feels and maybe clear some of your real concerns. We'll show you how to lift your mood. Definitely want to feel good as you go through the process of making changes. So there's a tinyurl.com link that'll take you right to the registration page. And again, that'll be $47 for the next 24 hours. And then the price goes up. So join early if you want to be part of this. And we look forward to supporting each and every one of you in ways that matter. And of course, after this too, if you want to get in touch with either of us, we've got more deals for you. Also, I'm offering, if people would like to explore working with me privately using EFT, maybe you've already got other things that work for you in terms of nutrition, but you're already working with Amanda on nutrition and you want to check out EFT, I'll give you $25 off a 4-session package. And if you're not sure if that's right for you, you're encouraged to schedule a free consultation call with me. If you go to my website, createandconnectbrilliantly.com, you can get on my email list, and also on the contact page, you can schedule a consultation right there. It's a quick, easy link, or you can send me a contact request with the form and tell me a little bit about what you're interested in. Mm-hmm. And Amanda, what are you offering?
So I am offering $25 off of an initial consultation, a nutrition consultation. And you can actually message me by going to my new website, which is up and running. Thanks to Michelle, my wonderful marketing gal. She's done so much work on this, and I'm so grateful for her. But it's nutrientrichlife.org. And you'll just have to go to the one tab where it says contact me. You can fill in your information, and then I will contact you within the next 24 hours, and either via phone or email, and get a hold of you that way. You can email me as well. My email is on the website if you feel more comfortable with that. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to the series as we continue on really getting into the guts of what we're talking about in the next 4 weeks, and discussing and giving practical and realistic ways for you to achieve your goals from, actually dietary standpoint, but also, cognitive and positive beliefs, and using therapies and processes like EFT and tapping. And that is so amazing. And when I first met with Betsy to understand what tapping was all about, it was so kind of foreign to me. I didn't really understand it, and I kind of almost felt like a little self-conscious tapping and talking. But then at the end, you have this overwhelming feeling of calm and release, and it really puts you in tune with your feelings, and it connects you. And that's really what the missing link is a lot of times in nutrition and weight loss, is we're missing that piece. And that's why we see so much yo-yo dieting, and so people have success at a certain time in their life, and then they don't. So we're bringing it all together for you, and I'm really excited about that.
Okay, we have time for a few questions, and what I can do is unmute everybody if you want me to, and or you can unmute yourself, I suppose. I think I just opened it all up. It's going to go crazy now, but who has a question? Anybody? See. Or you can actually use the chat function too if you want. So if you want to type in a question, I can answer your question that way. I wouldn't mind. Or Amanda might be willing. And just to clear things up, both of our videos say my name. So I'm very sorry about that. I think we just had a little glitch getting Amanda signed in today, so she came in under my second name. Sorry about that.
So we're both Betsy.
Yeah. But that's Amanda, the one in the light green sweater. I'm the one with dark blue. Okay. A couple of things I should tell you too. I'll share with you what the lead researcher on EFT with weight loss is doing a free webinar. She's in Australia. It's coming up March 1st. I just got news about it. That's going to be a really cool webinar, and I'll share that link with everybody here, because you owe it to yourself to know more about how tapping is probably one of the most innovative tools for managing emotional life. So that'll be exciting. Okay, let's see. I see a question. When was tapping first introduced? How long have people been doing this practice? Okay, so tapping first was found by Gary Craig. It emerged in the mid to late 90s. I don't think there's an exact date because it kind of evolved. I learned tapping for the first time at a conference in Switzerland in 2001. There was no research behind it, but it really blew me away. And the research really has emerged probably in the last 3 or 4 years. If you want to take a look at all the research, you can go to a website. It's energypsych.org, and click on the research link, you can find research for everything from PTSD to physical pain, to anxiety, depression, relationships, emotional eating, weight loss. It's pretty incredible. And this woman in Australia has done a lot of research with real people all over the world with online tools for the research study, which is pretty neat. So I know a few people that I've referred into the research studies. And if you're connected with me and I hear about new studies, I'll certainly introduce ways that you can maybe be a research subject, because there's a lot of good stuff going on. And Peta Stapleton is somebody you'll want to know and follow. She is on Facebook too, so I hope you'll get in touch with Amanda and myself, but you might want to also follow her because she has some really good content that she posts. Okay, let's see. Another question here. I have a hard time tracking each day. I have it all in my head, but writing it down is just not working for me. Is there an app or a simple way to track instead of pen and paper? Just the notepad on the phone. Well, if you're a Weight Watcher, the Weight Watcher app is really good for tracking because I've used that before. Although, you know, you have to be in the system and you have to be a paid member. Amanda, is there any app that you know of that you like?
There are a couple apps out there. My favorite app just crashed, so I wouldn't recommend that one. But I am on the lookout for a couple of the modern apps. I have a few of my dietitian friends looking into it who work specifically in weight loss, or one gal I know works in a bariatric clinic that I think is a really great resource. But, you know, a couple things to look for when you are looking for an app, if you are going to research it on yourself, is make sure it's simple to use. And it doesn't provide too much information, meaning that you don't want something where you're going to get carried away, or something where it's almost going to be, the information is going to be kind of contraindicating, you know, what against what we're doing. So, and every app is actually going to kind of vary a little bit, because they could give you calories and fat and dietary fiber. They could break everything down for you based on what you're putting in. So some of that stuff's not necessary. I would say definitely simpler is better. Mm-hmm. And make sure that you can print it.
Yeah. I will say, you know, I really enjoyed using Amanda's form when I first started working with her as a client, because it put me in touch with, you know, patterns of when I was eating by myself, when I was eating with other people, what time I was eating, whether I felt hungry or not, because she has a very comprehensive form. After I used that for about a week, I switched to a journal, because I've been journaling since I had my surgery, and it was way too hard for me to print forms and fill out forms. But I was mindful of the kind of things she asked in her form. And so I imagine when we do the 4-week series, she might make something like that available to you guys. Yes, she's not. And then, you know, a journal is great, actually, to write down your feelings. And I keep track of other things. I keep track of my waist measurement every day. And someday I'll be able to get on a scale again and see where we're at. You know, you want to keep track of how you're feeling. And I've been feeling really good in spite of, you know, being laid up and not exercising every day like I used to. I'm really surprised. I think, you know, the changes that she recommended to me have really kept me very peaceful without my exercise regimen going on. I was very, very fearful about going into depression, because I come from a family that has had more than its share of depression, and exercise has always been my go-to to stay out of that low place. So I truly believe the diet does it too now. Nutrition is key. And so I have so much hope for everybody here. I really do. And I think Amanda does too. So I hope you'll follow along with us one way or another, or just make a commitment to yourself today. You can do this. So we're a little bit past time. I'm going to put the screen back up that has the information about joining us for the series. Come on, little screen. There we go. And then we'll pull it back to the offer, so you know how to get that offer. Also, the event is on Facebook. The link's on Facebook, so you can go there and take advantage of that. And then once you're in, we'll be starting with the series next Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Now, make sure, I do want to make specific mention that if you're going to be joining us, that make sure that you not only click as going in the event on Facebook, but that you actually click on the link, because you won't have access to anything unless you're formally registered and paid for the series. So we apologize that there was a little bit of confusion about that. And I think that kind of is more on some of the folks on my end, because that's kind of how we've done different classes and things in the past. But this is a little bit different, this webinar series. So we did put that in the directions, but we're going to move it up higher. We're going to make it a little bit more noticeable for everybody, so we can all be on the same page with that. So if you have any questions, please let us know.
Okay, well, that's all for today. You'll all get a copy of this video. And again, our apologies for the difficulty with the technology, but
yes,
we'll get it down next week, okay?
That's right.
All right.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.